What's up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here. Today we're gonna try and get groovy, but also we're gonna talk about a fun new exercise that I've come up with inside of the Birdie fam in order to help you identify weaknesses in your game. And I think a pretty foolproof way that if you've been looking for outside help and you can't really feel like you can afford coaching or anything like that, I think this simple exercise you could take to your next few rounds and immediately identify some areas of improvement that you need help with. Before we dive in, we have to ask the most important question of the day. How you doing today, Anthony? You having a good one?
So catch me if I fall.
Over at patreon.com/RobbieCDiscGolf, we have a community called the Birdie Fam. It's all about bringing people together, trying to improve one stroke at a time. It's a Discord community, largely that's where most of the interaction occurs, and we do our best to try and help people improve. One of the ways that we do this is through a new opportunity called Midweek Muses. This is a discussion point that we have. It's like a live table discussion every single Wednesday morning, trying to improve. And this past week, the discussion point that we had was if you are stuck in MA4, what to do if you're stuck in MA4. And a question that got brought up is, how do I know what's holding me back inside of that? Is it my distance, shot selection? Am I just bad? And I refuse to believe that it's, man, I'm just bad. So I wanted to come together and I thought of an exercise that you could do, whether you wanted to take it serious or not. This is something that I'm all about. I understand that going to a field and practicing cannot be fun for some people. And how do we get better? How do we improve? And how do I approach the casual disc golfer who you just happen to stumble across this video, or your friend who's been trying to improve and they sent you this video? Hi, friend. What are ways that we can help you improve without feeling like you've got to go to a field and do this? And so the simple solution I came up with, and it's funny because I don't have it with me, but we're just gonna be able to use your phone as this. I think that if you went to the dollar store and bought like a $1 notepad, this would be even more effective, but your phone is gonna work just fine. Now, once you have your phone, you're gonna grab some discs, a bag. We got the old handy dandy Justin Bieber bag for my small amount of discs, because this week we are using the sponsor of today's video, Foundation subscription boxes. They carry a monthly subscription box that is discs tailored and handpicked for you with a different theme every month. This month's theme was the Groovy box. So we have, instead of usually there's a 3-disc option and a 4-disc option, in the month of September, which is last month, but the theme changes every month. The theme is still fantastic this month as well. They had a Recluse by Legacy Discs, and then these were the 3 main discs. You had a Groovy stamped Foundation disc golf stamp for a Discraft Heat, and then as the Wizard Gang, the Zard Boys, you have a Groovy Connor stamp and a Groovy Robbie stamp. And what's cool about these is that there are actually grooves stamped into the top of the Wizard. So Connor's is in the SS plastic, and then mine is in the Birdie blend. So Connor's has a little bit more give. Mine has that tackiness while also feeling like it has the stiffness that you would expect out of classic Birdie blend. Of course, we had to give the shout out to Anthony, because I realized when we had already planned on this, we dropped this box. Of course, Discraft came out, and they were like, hey, we're doing the Luna, but we're putting circles on the top of the Luna to see how it flies, replicating the Ultra Star. And like, Foundation, we were just ahead of it, dude. Gateway was already on it, bro. Groovy Wizards, we're already here. Groovy Wizard, Groovy Luna. One of them's a little easier to come by. So I'm using these 4 discs for this round, and we're going to go ahead and put these back in the bag. And we're going to start off with the Recluse, which is an overstable mid-range. We're going to try to throw it out there and see what we can do. Because after you have your discs, after you have your notepad or your phone for note-taking purposes, you're going to go play disc golf. That's really step number 2, after step number 1 being acquire the goods. Huh. Well, that wasn't very good, huh? 2 off the first. Much better. Now I see you, keyboard warriors. I see you typing away. Mr. YouTube man, I don't know if this really does anything. I'm just got playing disc golf, and you said it was going to be better because I was using this method. What's the method? Oh, you silly, silly typer. Trust me. Let's go hit a putt, and we'll talk about it on hole 2. The Recluse, an easy par range, but Groovy Con setting us up for success. Tap in birdie range. We like that. We like that a lot.
You like that? You like that?
So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go into your notes app or your notebook, and we're going to create 3 columns. And those 3 columns are going to be driving, approaches, putting. And what you're gonna do is, based on how the hole went, you're gonna give yourselves checks or X's. A check represents you did the right thing and you threw it the correct way and it was good. An X means that this was a opportunity that got messed up. So for instance, looking at that hole, I didn't throw an approach at all. So because of that, I'm going to put nothing in the approach category. I did throw a good drive, and I threw a really great drive, and then I don't even really factor in putting because the drive was good enough that putting was not on the table. So what I'm gonna do is, for my notes category, I'm gonna put 2 checks in the driving category because I threw 2 strokes on the hole, and because my driving was good enough, that actually made it so that the rest didn't matter. 2 strokes on the hole, therefore I'm putting 2 strokes down on my notes. Now, obviously we know that my second shot was the better shot, and that comes down to, I believe, disc selection. So I'm going to add an additional note on one of those driving checks. I'm actually gonna circle it because disc selection was a major factor there. Instead of going with the Groovy Wizard right off the bat, I started with the Recluse, and I figured it might be too overstable, and because it might have been too overstable, I felt like I had to try to throw a hyzer harder, and that caused me to early release it and go early left. Had I gone with the Recluse, then it probably would have been a possible X in the driving category, and then a check in the approach and a check in the putting if we were able to save the par, especially if the approach put me underneath the basket. Then, like if I would have jump putted and just been able to drop it in, it would have been a double check in the approach category. You catching the drift? Now here, this is one that we are throwing to that yellow basket out yonder, and I have a heat. I have the Recluse, which I don't think I can get all the way there, and I have a heat. So I'm gonna throw, it's been a long time since I've thrown a heat. So I remember them being flippy, but I'm gonna put this on a lot of hyzer and try to throw it into that open space there and see if we can just get it left. If I throw it on enough hyzer, even a heat should fade. Perfect. We're up there, we did the right thing. We threw our drive exactly where we were trying to land it. We threw it on the angle that we wanted. You can see that it even stood up there and flew straight, but then we let that 9 speed take over and it faded. This is awesome. Now here, we have a wide open 20-foot putt. So this is something that I think I should be telling myself with my putting skill. This is one that I want to make sure that I'm making. So I'm going to clear my thought, clear my headspace, because even as I'm talking to the camera, trying to bring you guys along the coaching experience, if I say this is one that I think I should make, obviously that leaves room for doubt that I could miss it. So I need to clear that thought process. It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. Do my routine. And I popped it. I threw a very confident putt. Like that putt hit that band with some gusto. That putt actually felt worse than the one that hit the band, but we missed the putt. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna pull up that scorecard once again. I'm gonna say drive, check. My drive put me in an opportunity to score. My putting, however, on a putt that felt very makeable, missed it. So that's gonna be a check mark against that. Now, technically we threw 3 drives, or 3 shots, right? So where do we put the 3rd mark? Obviously on a pure tap-in of that course, of that shortness, you know, I don't really need to mark that. We know where the error came in creating the hole. This is the hole that you guys have not seen in actually years. And it's because the hole has been so dramatically overgrown that you couldn't see down the fairway. This little like river walking path, even it was overgrown. It became very scary trying to walk down this fairway. You pretty much always had to keep your eyes down at your feet watching for snakes and things like that. So I want to give a shout out to community member Noah Glenn, because Noah, absolutely, he and a friend came out and have been crushing the course maintenance here at George Ward. So thank you, Noah, for being a rock star, being the change. So what we're gonna do here is we're throwing to the B basket, which is off to the left, and we're gonna go with Connor here. We're gonna go Connor on a little bit of hyzer. The thing about this is it's 250, but it's pretty downhill. So I'd rather be long of the basket and leave myself an opportunity to putt than be short. But the key is you gotta throw one down the gut. You gotta throw it into that open space. We missed our gap, and we'll be pretty long of the basket. But once again, this is a tough hole. I'm gonna throw the recluse just to see, should I be circling this? This is the mid-range, so you would think that the mid would go farther. But we're gonna get down there and we're gonna see that I'm pretty sure the more overstable mid-range was probably the right call. So even though I don't think that our driver necessarily cost us anything, because we're down there on the dance floor, we executed and even had the miss that we wanted to, might be a circle around it for disc selection. Yeah, I definitely think that we're gonna be putting a mark down on the disc selection, because you can see that the recluse very close to the basket. It was definitely the right choice. Like I said, we hit the gap. We did the right thing. I think it's hard to mark this as my driver failed me. Anytime you clear this initial set of trees and you get down here, it's fine. That is 100% worth it on this hole. Let's see what we can do. All right, so we sailed it just a little long, but I mean, I landed right next to the camera. This is an absolute tap in. So going to our scorecard once again. So guy pulls it up. We're going to put a check mark in the driving category, but that check mark is going to have a circle around it because disc selection did prove us wrong here. Both drives got out here. One of them went long, and I think it's because we needed more overstability than we threw with the Wizard. And then the second point was that approach. We're gonna call that approach, because that is not a putt that I'm looking at and saying, oh man, let's put it this way. If I make that putt, I do put a check in the putting category. And the reason I do that is because we ended up throwing a putt, but I'm not gonna mark against my putting on that category because of the fact that that's not a putt that I'm expecting to make even 50% of the time. Does this make sense? The whole reason that we're keeping this data is because we want to know of what we expect in our game. How often are we able to execute those factors in our game? And where is our shortcoming on execution hurting us? And where is our shortcoming on selection hurting us? For instance, if I would have approached with the heat because I wanted a little more float, a little more glide, and that got way away from me and I left myself a long look, I would actually call that a bad approach. If I ended up from there having a long putt where it wasn't just a tap in, I would not be giving myself a check on the approach. I would actually be giving myself an X on the approach because my approach was not good enough to make the next step have no work. If you're within 100 feet of the basket, you should not be putting on the next throw unless the basket is super like closed in or protected and you have to lay up to a certain zone, like we talked about in the video a couple weeks ago of 5 ways you can score more. There's a little intuition that has to come alongside this drill if you guys are picking up on that. Now, our last hole for this video comes in at 254 feet. Once again, pretty far uphill. If I could describe Birmingham disc golf, in a few words, two of them would always be sneaky elevation. Why it's funny when I travel places and they're like, oh, you're not ready for the elevation change. I'm like, yeah, we actually in Birmingham have a lot of up and down hills. So this is the disc golf that I have learned to play the game on. So here it says 254, I think. That's a dirty rotten lie. This thing plays over 300 feet comfortably. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna go heat and we're gonna try to go turnover. The sketchy part about this is that there's OB the whole left side of the fairway. So we've got to make sure that we commit on turning this disc. We're going uphill, but also we can't turn it over and throw a roller because we don't want it to cut roll OB. So let's see what we can do. A little too sharp, so we ended up hitting the hill on Anheuser and we rolled back down. So we're gonna have a long look at the basket. Should we have just taken the recluse and seen what we could do here? Yeah, I think that might be worse. I'd always encourage, especially if you are playing by yourself, obviously, if you're playing with like a crew of people, don't be that guy, bro. Just don't be that guy. Hey, can I throw another one? Hey, can I throw another one? Because I'd imagine most of your friends don't want to be rude and tell you, please don't. But if you're the only one ever asking to throw another one, I'll speak for entire friend groups when I say that they're all thinking, come on, man, like, you know, we're not going to tell you no. But if you're playing by yourself and you realize that there's no one around you and you've got the free space, feel free to throw another one, especially if you're doing this exercise, because that's one of the best ways you're going to find out, was disc selection the issue. We find ourselves here. We've got a long, deep, I feel like I'm in circle 2, even though I'm far away from the basket because of elevation change, but let's see what we can do. Yeah, floated up right next to the basket. And this will be an interesting one for our scorecard, because what I'm actually going to do here is I'm actually going to give myself an X in the driving category, because I do think that that was the right disc selection based on the discs I have, but I think that mis-executing it resulted in really a non-factor of getting up there. So because of that, it's going to be an X, and then the approach is certainly going to be a check because we're right next to the basket. Let's talk about final takeaways. We obviously played a shortened round, but because we played a shortened round, I would encourage you to do this for an entire round. And at the end of the round, you're going to go through and you're going to look and you're going to say, all right, in the driving category, I had blank amount of X's and blank amount of checks. And we're not even looking at circles yet. We are just checking pros. What shots did I execute well? What shots did I mis-execute? And did I cost myself more opportunities than I gained on the green or on the tee? And then we're gonna go to approaches. And oftentimes what I think you're gonna see is that if you're costing yourself a lot of opportunities in the driving category, your approach category is gonna actually ramp up quite a bit, where you're gonna have the opportunity to get a lot of checks in your approaches. It gets really tough depending on the courses you play. If you're playing a par 3 course like we played today, then your approaches, or second shots is where approaches I would also slot in on par 4s and things like that, then I would say that your approaches probably are very volatile. And that's where you have to be very, very particular about making sure that, oh, my approaches didn't leave me a tap in, depending on where those approaches are coming from. That would be a mixed executed approach. And then putting, once again, putting is probably, I'm gonna say, the hardest category for most amateurs to accept, because once again, people have very, very, very misconstrued beliefs about their own putting capabilities. And we look at like, oh yeah, I'm an MA3 and like, I just think I should make all of my 25 footers. No, I don't care if putting is the strongest part of your game. You would have to be horrific off of the tee if you made all of your 25 footers to still be rated under 900. And if that's the case, then the work is obvious. You don't even need this drill. So you gotta give yourself a little bit of grace. Even myself at 950 something rated, I'm not, if I miss a 25 footer, going, oh, that's an X. Ugh. And I think another important thing is make sure you walk them off. I talked about, I had a 20-footer, like a wide open 20-footer, and I know many an amateur who would walk up to that 20-footer that we missed on the second hole, and they would be like, well, that was just a tap in. Like, that was a 10-foot putt, and I missed a 10-footer. No, it wasn't 10 feet, I promise you. So, in order to not just completely obliterate yourself on the putting side of this, make sure that you're going through and you're checking the boxes and you're walking off the distances and things like that. We want to make sure that we're making accurate reading of information here. And at the end of this, I think you're going to see that you see, okay, I just lost a lot of strokes on the putting green, I lost a lot of strokes on the driving range. And for lots of folks, when you throw that second shot, I really do think that, are you losing in the driving category? Are you losing things because of your ability to execute, or do you just not know your discs? That's why when I thought about what disc should I use to shoot this video, like should I use my own bag or should I use something else, I really liked this idea of bringing the subscription box with me, because I've thrown Wizards before, but we weren't sure if the sort of groove on the top of the Wizard was gonna affect the flight. Spoiler alert, I don't think it did, but it feels better, especially on putting. It felt like a fun grip. I like that a lot, although once again, it doesn't, like, from my putting grip, it's kind of a non-factor because I'm not gripping it all the way out here. I'm kind of like, I just feel it on the edge. But I mentioned I haven't thrown the heat in quite some time. And because I don't throw heats very often, I wasn't sure how easy it was going to turn. And I wasn't sure how much it was going to flip up. Things like that, right? Where if I don't know my disc very well, then it's really easy to make the wrong decisions off of the tee for your discs. So we want to make sure that we learn our discs, because even if you're executing well, choosing the wrong discs has you striking out before you even get to the plate. So that's going to wrap up today's video. I hope this is a helpful exercise. I think I always encourage people when you're playing a lot of tournaments to keep like a notepad with you anyways, a physical notepad. That way you weren't even doing notes on your phone. Because if you were playing tournaments, you weren't having to like, oh, let me pull out my phone, and then I pull out my phone and I see a text, and then I do this, and then I just derail myself. I have my physical written out plan on what attack holes I'm using, what am I planning on throwing on the holes if I'm playing tournaments. So I think going to a dollar store, a Dollar General, whatever, and buying that dollar notepad, really a helpful thing to just keep in your disc golf bag at all times. And even put it in a sandwich bag, so that way if your bag gets wet, you don't get the whole thing ruined. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about this drill? I want to say thank you, as always, for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Please make it fantastic for someone else too. But for now, we're going to leave you with the birdie.